This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses. Some tragedies unfold in private. Others happen under streetlights, with an audience. Smartphones rise into the air, someone presses record, and within minutes, the worst moment of another person's life can be shared with millions of strangers. We tell ourselves we're documenting history. Sometimes we are simply consuming it. In the film Nightcrawler, consumption has a supply chain. Director Dan Gilroy follows it, from the camera pointed at the violence to the market that pays for the shot. I'm Don Lawler, film scholar with a passion for sound. Let's see what Dan Gilroy is asking us to notice. Let's get into it. Released in 2016, Nightcrawler follows Jake Gyllenhaal's portrayal of Lou Bloom, a petty thief, a patchwork identity held together by lies, hunting for a door into a world that has no place for him. He finds it on the shoulder of the 110, where freelance camera operators circle late-night accidents like sharks. Lou doesn't see tragedy. He sees a business model. Armed with a police scanner, a video camera, and an unrelenting drive to succeed, he becomes a stringer, selling graphic footage to local TV news. Footage that arrives before the bodies are covered and the blood is dry. Unlike the detectives and criminals we've tracked in this series, Lou isn't searching for justice. He isn't running from guilt. He's searching for opportunity, and he treats crime scenes like markets to be optimized. The deeper he enters this world, the more success seems to reward the very qualities most people would consider socially indefensible: aggression, manipulation, the willingness to turn suffering into a product. Soon, the question is no longer whether Lou has crossed an ethical line. It's whether anyone around him still remembers where that line was supposed to be, or if they've started paying him to erase it. To understand why Nightcrawler feels so unsettling, we need a theory that asks not how we consume images, but how images begin to consume us, and how, in a city that never sleeps, the camera becomes the only conscience left. Throughout this series, we've followed characters as they slide into darker worlds. In Nightcrawler, the darkness isn't hidden. It's televised. The crimes aren't the destination. The images are. French philosopher Guy Debord argued that modern society increasingly experiences the world through representations rather than direct experience. In what he called the society of the spectacle, images stop reflecting reality and begin replacing it. Events become valuable not because they happened, but because they can be seen, shared, consumed, and ultimately turned into commodities. Nightcrawler takes that idea and builds a social world governed by its own regulations. For Lou Bloom, tragedy isn't something to witness. It's inventory. And like any good entrepreneur, he optimizes the product. Better angles, more victims, cleaner narratives. If reality won't cooperate, he'll adjust the scene until it does. To understand why that matters, we have to stop looking at the crimes and start looking at the camera, not as a witness, as a weapon. Lou doesn't just capture tragedy, he stages it. The moment he moves a victim's body for composition, the camera stops being a witness and becomes a director. The event itself is no longer enough. Reality must be rearranged into a better image. Dan Gilroy emphasizes this concept through the film's stylistic decisions, using composition, framing, and distance to make the audience feel the cold separation between tragedy and the act of watching it. Much of Nightcrawler is photographed with long lenses that compress distance, making Los Angeles feel simultaneously crowded and emotionally detached. Lou often observes from inside his vehicle, separated from the world by glass, reflections, and the viewfinder of his camera. We seldom face tragedy ourselves, and we see it the way Lou does, as footage. Every time Lou looks through his lens, another layer of separation appears between the audience and the people suffering in front of the lens. The camera doesn't merely record reality. It transforms reality into something that can be packaged, sold, and consumed. And this isn't just a trick of fiction. In the real world, most people now live much of their lives behind screens, watching events through phones, feeds, and filters that flatten context and amplify emotion. The observer is being lied to, or at least sold a version of the truth that's been optimized for engagement. Most don't care. Many don't even notice. In Nightcrawler, the lens is Lou's tool. In our world, it's everyone's default setting. The separation isn't a side effect. It's the business model. When we first meet Lou, he's stealing chain-link fencing and wristwatches from construction site security guards. He manages to survive by taking whatever he can and convincing himself that it is justified. However, Lou doesn't consider himself a criminal. He views himself as unemployed. That's not an ethical difference. It's a branding decision. When he watches freelance camera operators film the aftermath of a traffic accident, Lou doesn't see blood or tragedy. He sees an industry. By the next evening, he has stolen and pawned a racing bike, purchased a used camcorder and a police scanner, and begun teaching himself the language of television journalism. Almost immediately, he begins speaking in rehearsed, motivational phrases borrowed from business books and online courses. Every conversation sounds practiced. Every sentence feels memorized. Lou isn't simply learning a profession. He's building a personal brand. Gyllenhaal's performance makes this transformation deeply unsettling. Lou rarely raises his voice. He smiles at inappropriate moments. He holds eye contact just long enough to make others uncomfortable. Throughout the film, Lou performs professionalism without ever understanding empathy. He learns how successful people sound, not why they speak that way. Lou's success isn't possible without someone willing to buy what he's selling. And that someone is Nina Romina, played by Rene Russo. As the producer of a struggling local morning news broadcast, Nina explains exactly what her audience wants: violent crime in affluent neighborhoods. Fear attracts viewers. Viewers attract advertisers. Advertisers generate revenue. In that equation, murders don't register as ethical events. They register as content, but only because they make compelling television. This is where Nightcrawler becomes something larger than a character study. Lou isn't an outlier. He's the ideal employee. He reads the market correctly. Fear sells, trauma rates, and the newsroom's metrics are simple: more bodies, more viewers. Every increasingly unethical decision he makes is rewarded with greater access, higher pay, and stronger relationships with the newsroom. The system never asks him to slow down. It asks him to bring back better footage. Gilroy's point is structural. When the image pays better than the event, someone like Lou will always rise to the surface. Rick, played by Riz Ahmed, enters the story hoping for steady work. Unlike Lou, he still believes loyalty deserves loyalty in return. Throughout the film, Rick repeatedly questions Lou's decisions, reminding him that there are limits to what decent people should do. Lou hears every objection, then calculates whether ignoring it will improve his business. The cruelest moment arrives during the climactic confrontation when Lou knowingly leaves Rick exposed to danger, treating his partner's life as just another cost of doing business. The betrayal isn't rooted in anger or revenge. It's a calculated decision that turns Rick's death into a more valuable product. By the end of the film, even human life has become another business expense. Debord's argument about experiencing reality through screens is extended further in the film, exploring the implications of when these images take on greater value than reality itself. The film's answer is straightforward. Reality is edited out. Lou Bloom succeeds because every part of the system rewards him. The newsroom buys the footage. Advertisers buy the audience. Viewers tune in for another broadcast. No one forces the market to exist. We create it together, click by click, rating by rating. That may be Dan Gilroy's most unsettling observation. The greatest danger isn't that someone like Lou Bloom exists. It's that our culture has already learned exactly what to do with him. Nightcrawler is more relevant today than it was when it premiered in 2016. Dan Gilroy made his film at the height of 24-hour cable news. Today, we all carry cameras in our pockets. The distance between witness and broadcaster has almost disappeared. When something terrible happens, our first instinct is often to reach for a phone. Sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes it documents injustice. Sometimes it preserves evidence that might otherwise disappear. But Nightcrawler asks us to consider another possibility. What happens when recording becomes more important than responding? When another person's worst moment, their panic, their pleading, their pain, becomes a clip we watch, swipe past, and forget before the next one loads. Debord reminds us how visuals and media shape our perceptions. That idea, more than 50 years later, feels less like philosophy and more like daily life. We witness disasters through screens. We measure importance by attention. Sometimes we forget there are real people on the other side of the image. Gilroy takes that idea one step further. The spectacle doesn't survive because people like Lou Bloom create it. It survives because there's always someone willing to watch. That's the film's most uncomfortable truth. As long as there is a demand for those images, the camera will continue to find its target. The lens only focuses where our attention directs it. We decide which suffering becomes visible. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Don Lawler. Music by Alon Peretz.